Today I'm going to do a little update video, I suppose. So last week I put out a video that was pre-recorded for when the baby's here. So there's about 4 of them, and I put the first one out because we thought the baby was here. Turns out it's not here yet. So I'm doing this one, which is recorded today, Sunday, the 4th of April. So the next few ones they're very good. They're very good episodes, but they're going to be the pre-recorded ones. The reason I've done a little live one today is it's imminent now, the baby. It's any day or any hour. The due date is 4 days away, but it's going to come a bit sooner, we think. So it's really a case of any minute, any hour, I might get called away, it's very exciting, really. It's also very surreal because you have to carry on with your life as if nothing's happening, but also be expected to come away from it at any point. So you can't just not make plans, you can't just not do things. But when you do those things, they have to be plans that can end if needed. So I'm still going out and working, picking up jobs, but the people I'm working with and the clients I'm taking out on walks, etc., I have to let them know I could be called away at any moment. So yeah, anyway, that's where things are right now, and life's going to change forever, I've been told. And I did an interview with Oscar a few weeks back about becoming a dad, how we're both feeling about it. And I feel like that's really an out-of-date interview now, because Oscar is a dad now, as of just over a week ago. And I'm right on the edge of it, and both of us feel very differently, I think, now to how we did when we did that interview. And there's been some very vivid dreams recently. I never have dreams, not really. I'm not sure why, but very rarely have them. But when I do, they're extremely useful in understanding what's happening in life and in my own psychology. And whenever I have a dream, I immediately write it down, talk through it, pick it apart, analyse it, and it tells me something extremely valuable, normally. Almost always it tells me something extremely valuable. So there's been 3 dreams recently, and they've acted as a bit of a progression. And the first one was I'd basically murdered someone, and I was hiding the body, and it was going to get found out, and I was going to go away for a very long time. And the big worry with that was I'm not going to be around for this kid. It's going to grow up thinking its dad went to prison, and when it's in its 20s, I'm going to come out or maybe not come out, I don't know. I don't know how long you go away in prison for killing someone. I know it's a very long time, because it's a bad thing to do. And I just put it to the back of my mind, really, that first dream. But the second dream, it was the same thing, just different details. And then again, it happened. So sort of did some talking with Emma, said, this is the dream I've had. And she said, that's very weird. And, maybe it's about dying in the psychological sense. But I waited until the other 2 dreams, the next dream had happened before picking it apart. The next dream, I had a mouthful of broken teeth. I chewed down on something and it had shattered most of my teeth. Now, I carried around these teeth for a long time, hoping that they could get repaired or something like that. But eventually I just spat them out, and there was loads of blood, and there was a big relief in doing this. So, and that was that. And at this point I had to interpret the dreams. There was something going on psychologically. So I used AI. I asked ChatGPT, I said, interpret these dreams with Jungian dream analysis. And Jungian dream analysis it's psychoanalysis. It's what a lot of us use when we interpret our dreams, whether we know it or not. It's all about archetypes and symbols and stuff that's common to all humans below the surface. And so when we dream, quite often our dreams use the same language, the same imagery to tell us the same sorts of things, which is really interesting, given that we're different people. So the first dream, it said that your dreaming that you've murdered someone and you're hiding the body around the time that you're going through a huge psychological change. And it said, that body that you've killed is you, the you right now. And you're not ready for that to die. You're not ready for the current you to get left in the past and not come back. So you, the new you, is hiding the old you as a body. And if you get found out, if you keep hiding this body, the new you won't be there for the kid. It will be trapped. It won't be allowed to grow, to come forward. Now, that's quite an interpretation. And the reason I know it's true, it's the same way that when you see a film or you read a good book and someone gives you an interpretation and you just know it's true, it just clicks. It just makes sense all of a sudden. It was that feeling. The second dream, it said, spitting out teeth. Well, teeth are they're very rooted, aren't they? They're very old roots in your body. You've had them your whole life, and those breaking down signifies normally the breaking down of old structures. And the fact I was carrying them around with me, it meant I wasn't ready to let go. But the relief I felt when I did finally just spit them out meant my unconscious was saying, it will be okay if you do jump into this. It's going to be painful, very messy, but it will be okay. And I remember in the dream looking around at people with this handful of teeth and thinking, this is so horrible. Obviously it's horrible losing all your teeth. This is so horrible. This can't be real, surely. And the people in the dream were looking at me as if to say, no, it's not real, but it is. What's happening to you is real. So that was very strange. Anyway, third dream, once I'd worked these things out, I had a dream that I was homeless. I was on the street. I woke up in an alleyway next to a huge crate of unopened beer, like you'd buy if you ran a pub. You'd buy in for the evening and serve it to people. So no real clothes apart from some rags and a hat. Some old clothes, that kind of thing. And no, I think it was clothes I'd found. They weren't my clothes anymore. I think that's important to note. They weren't my clothes. They were just found on the street as well. So I had nothing in the dream. And what I'd done in the dream was I'd start selling the beers to people passing by to make money to build myself up again. And I sold all of them. And with it, I bought this tiny new growth, this little green plant that was taken from me on the street. I had this lovely little new growth and it was just taken. And that was the dream. Again, AI said, you're becoming a new person. This dream signifies you've accepted that growth. And so you've let go of the old past and you've invited the new in. But right now, homelessness signifies you don't have the structure built up around you yet psychologically. You're between selves. But you've not avoided it. You've not avoided this transformation, which is what the beer was there to signify. You, in the dream, you could have just drunk it and escaped. You're not escaping from this. You've chosen not to. You've chosen to use it productively and grow a new self, which is that little green shoot. But the new green shoot is fragile and very vulnerable, and you just need to nourish it. You need to keep it close and don't put it out into the world too freely. So that's that. Those are the three dreams. There was a fourth dream before all of this that's just come back into my mind. It was a little few seconds, I suppose, of a little snippet of a dream, but all before this transformation was going on, I had a dream that I was putting on a pair of shoes. It was a black pair of dress shoes that you might wear to a wedding. And I was going to a couple of weddings at the time, so I was trying on these new clothes, these suits and all this sort of stuff, and I was thinking, oh, this is quite nice as an identity, wearing fancy clothes. And I put the shoes on, and they just broke from around me. There was no way they could hold me in them. They just broke under my foot going in the shoe. It just broke the leather, and it was cheap imitation leather, and at the time, Emma said it may be something to do with my dad, not my stepdad. He's good. It's the other dad, biological dad, who is not a lot to fill the shoes of, if that makes sense, as a dad. So Emma said it could be, that there's not much to live up to in terms of fatherhood. So the shoes of fatherhood just don't fit you. And I thought, it's not quite it. Which is interesting, because that could easily have become the interpretation if dreams didn't mean anything. But Emma said, it gave me a good interpretation, and it didn't fit. It wasn't the right one. I knew it wasn't. I could feel it. Which makes me believe that the other dreams being interpreted, those interpretations are dead on, because they made me cry a little bit. They were that accurately interpreted, and it was an interpretation of something so deep, so below the surface, in my unconscious, because that's where dreams come from, we think, that it just had to be true. I knew it was. So, but this dream, I asked AI again, can you interpret this dream? And it said, when you're building this new personality, this new self, it has to be authentic, it has to be real, it can't be cheapened, an imitation, and it has to be big enough to fit who you are. And it said something about fatherhood. It said, your conceptions of fatherhood aren't big enough. They're not your own dad, and how you see other dads it's not enough. You need to build up your own image of it, from who you are, what you do, what you can offer the child, not just the child, but other people as well. And you just need to make your own fatherhood, otherwise you'll be unhappy. And I thought, that's it. That's exactly it. That's right on the head. So that's that. And so I had these dreams, and AI again, it suggested what a Jungian analyst would say is, you have to move through these dreams in real life. You have to unpick them, understand them, but then perform some sort of ritual with them. And my friend Oscar, he's the one who's just had a baby. He's always been 2 weeks ahead of us with the due date. So he sent me some pictures from a walk he did about a week and a half before these dreams really came to a head and they were interpreted. And I just knew that was the answer, going for a walk. I didn't know it would be quite as profound as it was. But I talked to ChatGPT. I said, I'm thinking of going for a walk. What do you think? And it said, walk through these dreams in the walk. Act them out, let them in, accept them. And it gave me some ideas. So I'll just say what I did. So I walked up Painswick Beacon. I just picked the right place. I was looking through the map, and it drew me to it. So left Emma at home, and she knew I had to go do a walk. It was just something I had to do. So started going along, and as I was walking into the woods, it was very sunny, very warm, not too hot. It was just no one else around, lots of birds around. There was cars in the far distance rushing by. And walked into this woodland trail, and the ChatGPT, it just said, pick the right path, what feels right. And there were multiple paths at many points, and I kept picking the most difficult one, and the one that would take me up and down the most. And whenever I did that, I remember thinking, it seems harder before I do it, but once I'm actually in it, I'm okay. And I went into this kind of half dream, half awake state, and stuff was coming to the back of my mind, and I was letting it go. Stuff that I wanted to let go of, that current version of Tom. And it was things like, it's quite personal things really. I won't say too much, but stuff from the past. And whenever it came to mind, I'd pick up the heaviest thing I could realistically lift, walked with it for a bit, and then threw it off the hill. So that was that. And then as I approached the summit of Painswick Beacon, I wasn't ready to get there yet. And so I brought the first dream to mind, the one of me hiding this body of this person. I'd murdered the old me. And I thought, how can I represent this? So there was an old was an old bit of paper in my bag, and I just made this little person out of paper, this tiny little man. It was quite cool, actually. And I made him, and then I acted out murdering him, and then I just said to the world, this is okay, this is the old me, and it's over now. And I put it right next to this little tree that was growing on the edge of the hill, and then walked to the summit. And that was it. That was me letting the old me go, the me before becoming a dad. I then acted out getting a mouthful of teeth, just brought loads and loads of saliva to the mouth, and then just spat it over the hill. And I was saying in my head, I let this in, I accept this, all this kind of stuff. And then on the way down, found a little green shoot, picked it from the ground, nurtured it a bit, kept it to myself, and then planted it when it felt ready. And that was that. And then I felt absolutely fine, like I'd just let it all process and let it all out. And that was it. And then I was ready to come home. So since then, it's been about a week already. It's about a week ago. We've been in this sort of in-between state, I suppose you'd call it limbo, where we're waiting for this new version of ourselves to come out because the kid's here, and we're not quite in the past anymore. We're in between, and it's a very strange time. And yeah, we've just been tying up loose ends with work and admin, and I've still been doing work because I have to, because what if it's another 2.5 weeks? That's the thing with having a baby, is it could be any time from 8 months or earlier to 10 months, 10.5. It's the weirdest deadline I've ever had by far. Normally the deadline is a week, or the only other time a deadline's been like that is receiving a package from Australia to the UK, and it was, I think, 3 to 6 months, but I knew it would be about 3 months, whereas it's about the same time frame, but it's much more unpredictable. Much more unpredictable. So where are we now with our expectations? I've been told by people that it will change you forever, that they can't remember or they can't imagine what life was like before having the child. And I think that's really quite terrifying. I think of it as becoming a completely new person, and literally this person I am now not being a thing anymore, not being around. And I think to times before leaving on this big hitchhiking trip, because I can't really picture life before then, it was all leading up to going on the hitchhiking trip. That Tom before 2017 is lost to the past, I suppose, but he got me here, he got me on the road, and through the massive adventure, then he gave me all these stories and pretty much the source material of everything I do now. But the Tom before all of that doesn't really exist anymore, and I suppose that's really what I'm scared about now, is this current Tom not existing anymore, being a figure of the past. And that's really the crux of it. That's where these dreams are coming from, because this current me has to die, has to cease to exist, has to be in the past for this new one to come forward. But if I hide that from myself and I don't let it happen, the new Tom won't be able to come out either. And that's the really scary thing, I think. So it reminds me of this moment it was in the 2010s when, if you're a Doctor Who fan, it was Matt Smith regenerating, and he said he just a similar sort of realization. He realizes he's turning into someone new. There's a new face coming, literally, and he says it's okay as long as you don't forget who you've been. And that's it, really. I think I'd be okay with it if I don't forget who I've been before Tom as a father. So as for me and Emma, we're obviously very excited, and we've been gearing up towards this the whole time, really. that we've been together. We've been together it's almost 2 years to the day that we met. It was May 19th, so the day we met is 15 days away, and we didn't know it at the time that we'd get together. We just knew that we really, really wanted to see each other again. But very quickly, it was within weeks, she'd decided to leave her current boyfriend and go with me. And then within 6 months, I was proposing in Switzerland. And then 6 months later, we got married. So it was coming up to our anniversary soon. And then very quickly after that, she was pregnant, and the baby's coming soon. And this is it. The relationship with Emma, it doesn't feel like it's changing as much as I'm changing as a person, because like I said, we've been kind of aiming towards this most of the time being together. The only things that are really going to change are it's not going to be just us two anymore, and that's going to be tough, really tough. But there'll be times where it's just us two. We'll make sure that happens. One thing I'm personally worried about is the lack of sleep. I'm very bad at running on little sleep. But someone told me the other day that it's not the bad kind of tired. It's the kind of excited tired, that little buzz you get, and the adrenaline, it keeps you going through the tiredness. And I asked, is it like, she couldn't imagine it, but when I was hitchhiking, there was a few times where I'd have to get up really, really early and stay up all night trying to catch a lift. And there was one particular time in China where I had to get a lift at that one spot, and it was on the equivalent of their motorway. And if I went there after about 7 in the morning, there'd be too many cars going too quickly, and there'd be no chance of getting a lift all day. And I was way too far from anywhere to walk, so it was quite concerning because I didn't have unlimited water or food. Food would be okay, but it was the water I was worried about. So I had to get a lift that day. So I woke up at 4 a.m. and rushed to this spot on the side of the road. And very luckily, the first person that saw me picked me up, because it was, say, 3 lanes of road, and it was only like one car every so often. And I just thought, surely one of these people will pick me up. I had a couple of hours, and he did. He slammed the brakes on right in the fast lane of this road. No, it would have been in the slow lane, because it's reversed. They drive on the right, don't they? So I stood right next to the slow lane, which was illegal, and he stopped there, which was also illegal. And I just thought, this has got to be someone worth getting to know. Especially in China, the most controlling, authoritarian country I've ever been in. Someone's able to break out like that and just do something that illegal. So, and that was it. And it was a great time with him. He bought me lunch. We talked, and it was great. But the point is, it's the tiredness that day was enjoyable tiredness, because I was getting up early so I could do this, and so I could get here, and so I could achieve this big thing. And I think it'll be same with this baby. I'm going to be tired because I've got a baby, because I've got a child, and it's an incredibly fortunate thing to happen. Not everyone gets to have one, but we do, and that's just absolutely incredible. So all of this change, all of this psychic death, I suppose, it's necessary. And I know that going through this is necessary. I've spoken about this before, how all through your life parts of you are dying and new parts are growing, but just occasionally that process is quite extreme, and quite a lot of you dies away and quite a lot of you grows out of that. There's only been 2 other times really that's happened, so I'm ready for it. I'll end it there. Thanks again for listening. See you next week.